Hello, everyone. I'm Marie, your moderator for today's webinar. It's my privilege to welcome you all to AI for Finance and Operations in Mid-Size Organizations. So thank you all for taking the time to join us. In this session, we'll take a closer look into a real-world AI applications and the power of embedded analytics already available to NetSuite customers. But before we begin, I'd like to go over some few quick housekeeping rules to ensure a smooth and productive session. The webinar will run for approximately an hour, so 30 to 45 minutes of presentation followed by a 15-minute Q&A. To minimize disruption, all participants will remain muted with your cameras off throughout the session. If you experience any connection issues, simply log off and log back in to rejoin. Feel free to submit any question at any time using our Q&A panel on your screen. And the session is being recorded, and a copy of this video will be shared to the registered attendees after the event. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for today. So we have Rob Sheldrick, Head of Mid-Market Enterprise at Ndevr. Rob is a seasoned expert in wholesale distribution and supply chain with over 30 years of experience in business transformation and modernization. Starting his career in Australia's largest food production company, Rob had since led business intelligence team across Australian enterprises, driving strategy focused on standardization, automation, and reusable analytics solutions. Passionate about helping businesses to become future fit. He empowers organizations to adopt cutting-edge practices and prepare emerging technologies. Once AI skeptic, now AI enthusiast. For today's session, we'll start by exploring AI race and where the industry stands, and followed by a closer look into a NetSuite vision for AI. Then we'll walk through NetSuite's core features, dive into available NetSuite AI today, and finally, we'll wrap up with the key challenges and consideration to keep in mind as we move forward on your AI journey. So Ndevr has conducted a number of sessions showcasing how we partner with growing businesses across Australia to help become future fit and ready to exploit cutting-edge technology. So ready to scale and adopt led fast-changing environment. So without further delay, please welcome Rob Sheldrick. And Rob, over to you, please.
Thanks, Marie. Look, I'll just kick off with just a quick safe harbor statement on behalf of Oracle. We are going to be talking about some things in the product today, and they are live things, but also I may make reference to things, and they obviously don't want to be held accountable to those totally. So, yep, just so if everybody can just have a quick read of that and be comfortable with the safe harbor statement.
All right. So, Rob, many of us here today wondering how we can leverage AI in our business. So in a safe way. That's boost productivity, and I think now would be a great time to let us take over and show us where things are with AI business operations.
Okay, thanks, Marie. Appreciate that. So let's just start with a basic AI definition. There's a lot of them out there, but the one I've chosen for our conversation today is fairly straightforward. So it's about technology that allows systems to analyze data, learn from the patterns in the data that they are analyzing, and allow you to make decisions or allow it to make recommendations in real time. So it's a pretty simple, basic starting point, but that's kind of where the power is be able to leverage your data and the things that you know to provide you, based on patterns, decisions and recommendations. So if we move forward in the concept, I wanted to reference an article published in Science Direct back in December last year titled AI Revolutionizing Industries Worldwide. It's their work, so I do want to reference that, but I think it breaks down AI into 8 components, and I think it's a worthwhile conversation to be starting around the components. So natural language processing is key, being able to talk to your systems in a normal standard way, the way you talk to colleagues, having the systems learn from things that are going on. So we've had this for many years in some cases, like OCR, that certainly learns how to capture a supplier invoice, where things sit and put that data into your systems. Computer vision. So I've got a great little story here. I started my working life back in 1990 or so, and I worked for a poultry company. And back in those days, on the production line, there was a system from the Netherlands that, based on thousands of photographs, would work out whether the product was an A, B, or C grade product. The product, by the way, was moving on a fast-moving production line, and so on. So some of the things we talk about in AI have been around for a long time. Robotics, I'm sure there's some people in this session today that have been around robotics, whether that be a car manufacturer like Toyota or whatever, or whether that be just simply Amcor moving glass products between warehouses with self-guided robots and so on. So again, lots of things that are being done there. So I want to just start this conversation with, there are different elements to the AI conversation, and I won't read them all out straight from the slide, but there's important things that we should learn from that. The other interesting element is listed here is reasoning. I think this is topical at the moment because the reasoning kind of allows systems to make predictions and solve problems based on their understanding of the world, as it says. But Apple's done some really interesting work recently and published some stuff in the last few days that really say it's not reasoning like we think it is. It's really just good pattern detection and reading the patterns on steroids as such. So it feels like reasoning, but it's not like the AI world is actually at that point with true reasoning going on as such. Now, they may well get there. I'm believing what Apple is saying, by the way. I think that's it. The power for us, though, is it's about actually on steroids and detecting things and be able to tell businesses what's going on. So whatever it is, it's really important to have businesses moving ahead, or work moving ahead. The other thing I wanted to introduce at the start of this session was a graph from some work that Gary Ramar has done around putting some perspective around the journey for AI and where it sits at and so on. So basically it shows us that AI is probably still stabilizing, but it is real value that's being delivered through it. For those that are actually using it in various ways in business, and obviously I'm focused on business in this conversation today. Personally, I think we're about halfway between experimentation and stabilization for businesses. So you're hearing everybody talk about AI out there. What I want to show you today is somebody that's actually, talking about it, but has actually embedded this. And NetSuite will tell you they've done AI for many years as well. We're in that updraft though now, where we're starting to move past stabilization, or hope to move past stabilization in the future into expansion and get true value. So wherever we are, we're really now heading fast to the pivot point where there's going to be much more massive value, even though there is value being achieved today in this space. But the real point that Gary's article talks to, and the one that I really resonates with me as an old process manager looking for business improvement in corporate organizations, is the one that the clarity that the gains from businesses who leverage AI are unabashedly real productivity improvements. And the key here is the ripple effect. So basically lots and lots of small improvements in real time, building on each other, rapidly delivering better decisions, faster outputs, greater accuracy. So this is really critical. So it's not about do one thing and, oh my God, I've just grown my business by 30%. It's really installing AI concepts throughout the business in various processes and activities and reporting drives. So the exponential return for individuals, line managers, those that are responsible for manufacturing or for moving stock around and so on, and the businesses overall are really built on lots of small things moving. So there's not a big surprise in that, but we're seeing these small things becoming embedded throughout the system, as you'll see with the walkthrough today. Does that make sense so far, Marie?
That's true, Rob. So what you're saying is that this is a bit like compounding interest. What we're all trying to work out, though, is what does AI within an ERP system look like?
Okay, that's a fair question. So let's look at it from an Oracle NetSuite perspective. According to Oracle NetSuite, who are clearly a leader in this space from my perspective, AI in an ERP is all about intelligent algorithms integrated throughout the solution. So here's a really important point I want to underline: integrated throughout the solutions. So you don't go looking for AI in NetSuite. You're going to see it more and more in front of you as choices to be made in general operations. There will be some really cool things added in over time, and there are some cool things added in, but I want to talk about the stuff that's standardized in there. So it's embedded machine learning models in there as well. So one of the things that's really important here, and you'll see this in some coming slides, is Oracle with their size and footprint are able to really drive the conversation about working with different models out there. So one of the things we do know right now, we don't know who the winners are. There are a lot of large models that are running around that do all different things and so on. At some point, we know that they'll become winners and there'll be aggregation over time, etc. There's been some people caught out recently, I think it's a funny story, who have pretended to do AI by putting 6,000 resources in a set of rooms and just Googling things and typing it into it. You know, there's all different ups and downs going to go through those people that work in that space. But Oracle will be well placed to actually leverage that and are leveraging that today. And as you'll see, they have some strong relationships. So all of this is allowing for automation of key and critical processes, just processes in general. Right, that's the other thing. So it's not like you just identify all these important things in your business. There'll be standard things like setting up a product, as you'll see today, or whatever. They're there. The ability to analyze the data. So data is important to this conversation. It's always important to businesses, and the ability to provide, predictive insights based on that data of what you think is happening. So again, some people might want to call that reasoning, but it's really following the trends. So AI is transforming ERP systems from a passive repository of data and processes to active intelligence hubs. This is how Oracle NetSuite see the world, freeing up humans to focus on more value-adding tasks, whether that be strategic or not, just getting jobs done faster, to give them other time in the day to do other things that add value. So as well, it also ensures that the mundane or tactical tasks that need to be undertaken by people are done faster with greater accuracy. And that's a really important point, driving quality. So AI is not just about productivity from I get to do the thing faster. There's actually a reality here. So we've known this for years with things like OCR and so on, where we've gone past what a human can get as far as an error rate goes to having OCR deliver a less error-prone process. So productivity is a real power up and so on. So that's probably the theme I'd like you guys to take away from today. From a process perspective, it's all about productivity. So if we look at the AI step a bit further in the ERP world, there's 5 characteristics that you should expect that an ERP delivers from an AI point of view. One is automation. Obviously, we want to automate processes, don't have humans touch them where it makes sense, and just let things flow with velocity. And when things flow with velocity, there's a massive improvement in productivity in organizations. But the other side of that is it's clarity of where the business is at any point in time. So you engage that real-time nature that is inherent in a product like NetSuite because things are moving at pace and velocity. The predictive nature or the analysis that you can provide, being able to use the data you've got and work out what we think is going to be happening. And obviously inside that is a testing process and teaching it and getting better and reacting to things. And that's really important. If I don't say this today, when you see the thumbs up, thumbs down concepts coming through, that's your opportunity to say, you didn't do a good job with that AI, and it does learn and react to that sort of feedback. Anomaly detection, and we're going to go through one of those today. Be able to have a system, work behind the scenes and bring to your attention something that needs an interaction or may need something to be done about it. I think this next one, though, is the most important one, is the natural language processing. So the ability for AI to allow, I'm a sales guy nowadays, even though I've come from a process management background, we are not always the smartest guys with tools, but to be able to empower me to just talk to a system in the way I talk every day and give it 3 or 4 iterations of what I'm saying to it and give it an opportunity to give me a great quality outcome. I think this is the biggest thing right now, and I'm sure there'll be bigger things in the future. But really opening up that system and just talking to it in a normal language is really going to be critical. And right now that's available. So decision support is the other one. So providing guidance for you to make better decisions and have the system give you more information as such. So hopefully you'll see some of that in the walkthroughs we do in a little while. So no doubt there's more characteristics that exist and probably are able to be exploited. And you're going to see that these ones, in my opinion, these 5 characteristics that NetSuite talk about, they have massive paybacks already along the concept. Again, I hope that makes some sense, Marie.
Excellent insight you got there, Rob. So really, you're making this sound quite straightforward and sensible for business to adopt. So can you tell me more about why NetSuite have to gone down this path for customers?
Yeah, look, quite simply to help businesses work smarter, faster, and more strategically by embedding the intelligence directly into the ERP workflows and power those daily operations. So a lot of words there. The other reason, because they're going to make more money. Let's be blunt about this. This is a step forward that they are able to do, and I'll explain in the next slide a bit more about why that is. But their reason for being, and they've been 25 plus years in this space, is to help people with a single unified solution deliver better processes. NetSuite have some really good stuff about suite success, which is for me really important about leveraging others that have gone before you in standard processes. AI loves standard processes, right? Don't spend your time customizing things you don't need to. Make them work better for you. So they're really well placed to do that. And right now there is no discussion that NetSuite has about leveraging AI and making people pay for it. It is just going to be, and it just is in the business, in the ERP itself, spread wide. It's just part of their DNA now of as they design it. So one of the things that does stand out for me that is different versus some other cloud ERPs that are in the conversation is that Oracle underpins the infrastructure behind NetSuite. They're all part of the same organization. So Oracle's ecosystems are just uniquely placed to provide leading edge AI infrastructure. And NetSuite gets to take advantage of that at all different layers. So you can see in the slide I put forward, AI isn't just a functional thing sitting inside the solution, it's everywhere and it links out. So one of the really big things I'd like to call out here is the relationship they've built with NVIDIA. I think depending on the day you look at the numbers, they are the world's most capitalized business, or they're number 2. They're raking it in on what they're doing around this space and so on. But again, Oracle and NetSuite are really looking at this in the right way. They're looking at different ways that they can put this in. So what you're not seeing is NetSuite with an AI add-in. You're seeing NetSuite is AI, and that's the intention. So a lot of this stuff has been done for years. We're going to be talking about stuff that is in the product today as such, and there's more stuff coming down the line. But I think just to close that part of the conversation off, I just think Oracle and therefore NetSuite are really placed in this conversation in an important way. So the other thing that's important point for me is that AI is built on the best data, and the best data, in my opinion, comes from unified suites. I'm not saying you can't have a best of breed solution out there, but I am certainly saying in my experience for mid-sized markets and even larger ones, the best experience comes from having a unified solution that has as much as possible inside it as on it. The second best thing is then having things built in the same code put into that solution. So NetSuite has been doing this for 25 plus years. So I personally, my view of the world is they're pulling away from many others in this space. They have an unfair advantage in this space, and that's why they've got some good marketing terminology that's actually legitimately in play today about AI everywhere, as you saw in the last slide. It's throughout the solution now, and AI now. So you're going to be seeing some things today that are AI in play. And if you come to me tomorrow and you're running NetSuite, or you have NetSuite in the latest version, you can do these things today. So let's maybe just kick one off. Actually, I'll go back one slide so it doesn't start without me. So let's take an example around Text Enhance, probably an obvious one. I suspect many of you are used to this. I wanted to show you what it looks like to set the scene in the NetSuite world. So Text Enhance empowers teams to harness generative AI to boost the productivity across everyday writing tasks. And what strikes me as a relevant point here is I don't know about you guys, but I spend a lot of time starting a process when I'm filling in a document of some type, or even just getting my head around the slide set. I want to talk to you guys around my stories and so on. And this kind of removes that. And I do this, I'll be honest, I do this as well. I go to Chat GPT. I know certain areas and I've got a view on it, but I go to it, say, can you start me off, and so on. So I think this is really empowering if you've got it in the ERP, that people putting in a new product or putting in other things can leverage that. It also draws company-specific data to automatically generate clear contextual content, whether it's item descriptions, purchase orders, you name it, all from within NetSuite. So you'll find Text Enhance is embedded in hundreds of places throughout the NetSuite solution. And so let's take a real world example here. Nick, our inventory manager, is using Text Enhance to quickly create a compelling customer facing sales description. So let's do the first walkthrough, and hopefully this will start.
As we can see on the inventory screen, we're currently logged in as Nick, who is our inventory manager for our company. We can see some basic details against the item, including the weight and the minimum order quantity. Currently, there's nothing sitting in the sales description, but that will change shortly. As we look onto the purchasing tab, we can see the vendor information has come through, noting that they are a small family-owned roastery, and this is freeze-dried coffee. Now, being a growing business, we don't have a full-time marketing person. Nick wears a few hats and he's in charge of entering all the product descriptions. Now, Nick's way with words isn't the best. Like me, he's a little bit of a C average in English, but he loves coffee and he's going to enter some notes against it. He's got a small summary himself that he's now entering, noting the crema on the product as well as exactly where it comes from in the world. As you can see, he's now used generative AI to create this text description. It's taken the text he's entered, added other existing data to provide a more attractive description. Now, Nick likes the output, but he thinks it can be a bit longer. So NetSuite AI is going to do its magic and improve the descriptive nature of this. Nick really loves this new description. His customers will also love the insight and eloquence to get excited about ordering and trying the new product when they read it online. Nick's now gone from a C grade English student to an A grade student in the process with the help of Text Enhance.
All right, great. So let's go forward. I'll go forward to the next one. So now let's see how Abby from our support team uses AI to streamline case management using data that's stored in the system around cases. Abby relies on AI to instantly summarize the full history of a customer support case, leverage NetSuite's inbuilt AI to generate personalized recommendations, and using generative AI to quickly draft a email that goes out. I'm not sure it's a very strong email, by the way, but that depends on what you input. But you'll see here in a few clicks that she can actually do a few more things and make time or productivity work.
Here we can see Abby in our support team reviewing our cases. This customer had a faulty screen for a newly purchased laptop. We've got the item record linked here. We can see the item is linked along with the assigned contact Catherine and some basic notes on the ticket. In the Communications tab, Abby has been communicating emails back and forth with her customer, Catherine. Now, Abby needs to provide a summary of the case. When we edit the case, we have two long custom text fields here. One is for a summary and one is for recommendations. So instead of having Abby trawl through the emails and remember what tasks were done and agreed to, AI can instantly provide her a recap. In it, we see that we organised a courier to pick up the affected laptop and drop off a replacement. We asked Catherine to record a video of the issue to help support a warranty claim with the OEM. And we're going to provide some tips on recording a good video to support the warranty claim. Abby isn't really that good with the video recording. She might ask around the team, but that takes time. On the recommendation field, Abby can ask the AI to provide recommendations to get a resolution for Catherine on the case. And this is entirely based on the details already entered. Using large language model and NetSuite Learning, AI provides some tips for recording the video and some additional resolutions. Abby will relay these tips back to Catherine, and they'll immediately process a refund once the OEM has approved the warranty claim. Abby will type in a quick email here with tips noting to use, a well-lit room, make sure you record the entire screen, capture the steps to create the issue, and capture the issue. She'll then use Text Enhance to clean this up to expedite sending these tips out. So the NetSuite generative AI via the open APIs and Suite Script has helped us make sense of a large amount of data and streamline our workflow to help customers faster.
Fantastic. And look, just for me, I like showing that one because at the end there, Abby really should have written a bit more information into an email and used the power of AI to expand and improve on that. I think she got a bit lazy. And I think that's a telling point that we all have a bit of a role in how to leverage AI very effectively. So let's now move to a couple that were shown at a recent NetSuite session for all the customers that are there today. I think probably at the start of May. So we're going to start with looking at an AI agent in action. So, a bot that's running around looking at NetSuite financial exception management. So the intelligent agent is working in the system continuously behind the scenes, as I said, to look for proactively, to be able to proactively identify anomalies, errors, or any potential fraud events that take place. Pretty important in today's world. The other side of this conversation is there's going to be more AI activity in those scams and fraud events going on. So we need to stay, across that conversation. It's going to analyze informational data at scale. It's going to automatically flag anything that's out of the ordinary tool. So let's see how this works in real time.
The Financial Exception Management dashboard presents all the potential exceptions at a glance, prioritizing transactions so I can address the ones with the highest impact first. I'm interested in reviewing transactions with incorrect amounts. I can check the details of each exception and compare it to a list of similar historical transactions. Let's look at this journal. It's for a payroll expense which incorrectly didn't include an expense for one department. I can edit the transaction and correct the amount. After that, the exception can be marked as resolved. NetSuite continuously learns from user actions, refining its accuracy and ensuring future alerts are highly relevant. I can see another exception which gets my attention. It's a rental expense listed as $2,000, but similar transactions averaged of $20,000. It was probably a typo and I can edit it as well. This feature saves me a significant amount of time and gives me confidence that the transactions in my books are up to date and accurate. Period closing is now efficient and stress-free.
Okay, so last one. I wanted to actually show this one because I think this is one of the most exciting advancements in AI in a business sense. It's the ability to interact with the system, as I said earlier, in language that's just like talking to a colleague. So what you're going to see here is via the NetSuite Suite Analytics, already one of the most widely used tools in the suite, now becomes even more powerful because the AI agent allows you to bring natural conversation to play when you're building reports or adjusting reports. So in this example, we're going to see how users can simply ask for insights in plain English, how AI understands the context of the business data to proactively build the right report, and how the report is instantly published in a dashboard. And where this resonates for me is, you don't need to have then people that know how to go and build out reports or are great with pivoting in Excel. They can just be human beings that are actually good at selling, good at doing whatever job you want them to do. Maybe not as strong as building out a dashboard and so on. So let's have a look at this and see. It's a great example of how a user, AI, and the software work together within NetSuite.
Suite Analytics Assistant is an interface that allows me to search for and edit charts effortlessly. Instead of scrolling through workbook options, I can now ask questions in a way that feels natural, just like I'd ask a colleague in a conversational language. Here, I want to understand the sources of my revenue. I asked, "Show me revenue," and hit enter, and the assistant showed me those relevant workbooks. I'll go to the Suite Success Billing and Revenue Summary workbook. In the workbook, I'll ask Suite Analytics to slice and dice and present the data in different ways to get the insights I'm looking for. I can even ask a somewhat complex query. I'll ask the AI to show me the total amount by customer per year. The assistant recognizes that this requires a new chart, then creates a chart and shows me exactly what I want to see. Now I'll ask the assistant to filter for specific years. And again, the assistant updates the chart with a filter showing the years that I asked for. I can continue to do analysis, or I might ask to add this chart to my dashboard. This will tell the assistant to create a portlet which makes the chart available in the dashboard on my homepage. With no additional effort from me, the dashboard portlet has now been created. Let's go take a look. Here on my homepage, I see the assistant has added the chart as I requested.
All right, so there you have it. Just a few examples of how AI in NetSuite streamlines workflows, automates repetitive tasks, and delivers real-time insights to help your teams make faster and smarter decisions. I think this is really important. This is the heart of who I am around working on process improvement and trying to help organizations actually step forward. I'd like to just tell a story of when I was at university many years ago. I went and worked at Holden's in Adelaide every Christmas. And it was really, really interesting. It was a time when Holden's had a great relationship, or had a relationship at least with Toyota. And people on the line who were just blokes in blue overalls, they'd come straight from maybe school, spent 30 years working on that line, were paid for any small advancements, improvements they could bring to drive productivity on a line. So you can imagine one of the big things for manufacturing cars on a line is if you're producing, say, 100 cars a day, and you can improve that to be able to produce 200 or 120 even, as such, there's a great opportunity for payback for the organization to produce cheaper cars. I would see people honestly get paid $250,000 for what they thought was a very simple improvement, because that's the value of productivity. So Toyota drove that into Holden at the time, and then they split up in their relationship and so on. But that's how I think of the world, right? Not that we want to go and pay people lots of money for great ideas. The ideas, improvements, actually are how organizations not just get productivity, but step forward into the organization they need to be. So, for me, I hope that helped provide some insights. I hope you saw in that example the AI driving productivity. And again, go back to the foundation conversation earlier. For me, it's not about one or two AI events. It's about regular, ongoing, throughout the solution. AI is doing its job, compounding, as Marie said, the interest that you achieve from productivity. Hope that made sense, and I hope they were good examples, Marie.
Exactly. That's really a solid point, Rob. And I hope that our audience can say that's really easy to follow. But those walkthrough were incredible. So I can really see how NetSuite is going to be a productivity game changer for its end users. So what are the important things I need to be thinking about with AI in my business? And maybe some other questions I have is, how do I go from organized chaos to reluctant stuff to something closer to what I just saw on those demonstrations?
Okay. So a couple of things for consideration here that I think are important. So first of all, I appreciate the organized chaos. You may not even be in organized chaos. You could be a very structured business that is really on top of your game with processes, but you can't achieve any more than where you're at, or you might achieve small increases, incremental increases. AI is going to turn this on its ear, and is turning it on its ear today. So this is about really enhancing productivity in the organization. So my personal view on the conversation, and where I've come to sit in the last couple of years, is you need a cloud solution, in my opinion, that will thrive in the AI world. Why I say that is you may have on-premise solutions that equally achieve some things with AI. Cloud solutions are just better placed to be able to move faster, be kept up. But there's another thing here, and this is not something that Oracle NetSuite are saying. This is, Rob Sheldrick's personal view. They have access to data over thousands and thousands and thousands of sites. As such, you can normalize that data and use that as a large model as well, without having any risk of people's data being presented. So summarizing up and so on. So I think there's a distinct advantage where cloud in the future will be able to turn some of that on. So you can type in a question. I'm thinking about introducing wave picking to my warehouse. What do people typically see as improvements for wave picking? And an AI robot can come back to you and say, we've gone and looked across, similar industries at similar size, and they've seen 3 to 4% improvement. That may not be the improvement you get, but it's a great, how do I put a value around what we're looking to achieve and so on. Now, again, I want to be clear that that's Rob Sheldrick's view of where I think it's going. I'm not a futurist, so you've got to be careful with that safe harbor view of what you take away. But I genuinely believe that cloud solutions are important. Data, as always, is critical. Nothing's changing here. If you've got bad data in your system, or you don't have access to relevant data to help shape the question or the prediction side of things, you're not going to get the best result. So again, having a unified solution like NetSuite for me is really critical. So yes, in the cloud, but also have a lot of things working together just natively and so on. So remember, the conversation here is having AI throughout, not an AI module or anything like that. You need to take your people on the journey. If this is really important, sell them how it's going to make the world better in their world, right? Not the global world as such. And there's a lot to say about that. So one of the things I just want to point out at this one, we sit here regularly and have conversations about AI for other reasons in other contexts, and we talk about jobs. Never in the history has there been a large advancement where we've ended up on the other side of that advancement with less jobs. We've always ended up with more jobs. So if you go back to the Industrial Revolution, we ended up with more people being employed. If we go back to robotics being placed out there, we still ended up with more people being employed in those industries. Even OCR is a simple sort of short thing. Yes, there might be you reducing your AP team to solidify that, but things are working better and prospering. And, so AI is going to be exactly the same. We're going to sit here in time to come, whether that's multiple years or what, and we're going to watch as there's new jobs created, and overall more people will be working because we've got AI in place. Standardized, repeatable processes are really the best thing to have. So where people are spending a lot of time, in my opinion, customizing something that doesn't warrant it. So for example, I talk to some organizations that want to customize sales order process, and I sit down and go, is it your IP? Is it a competitive advantage? And sometimes they think it is, but what AI works better off is a considered standard process that it's improving with as such, rather than having all these other things running around that it's trying to work out what to do. So one of the points here that is really important, and I see this regardless of AI with process definition and so on, people like to automate inefficiency. We've done X, Y, Z for 20 years. Let's automate that process. What you should be doing is step back saying, should we do this differently, right? And that's what AI is going to enable you to do as well. So I think that's important. And finally, the stuff that moves fast, this stuff moves fast, and it's going to move faster. So keeping up with AI and the trends from a business perspective in relation to ERP, you want a solution like NetSuite that has 2 updates a year coming through, but behind the scenes, they're continually improving and optimizing what they're doing in that Oracle stack that we talked about earlier. So I think that's important. So there may be some people in this audience today that are in organizations that wait 2 years to do an on-premise upgrade, or are always pushing back to not do upgrades. You want a solution that just upgrades as you need it and so on, and doesn't have the effort and the need to actually spend around upgrades anyway. So for me, if you're not jumping on something like an ERP in the cloud, like NetSuite, and obviously that's what I'm talking about today, I worry you're going to be left behind if you're sitting with on-premise or weaker cloud solutions that don't really focus on this area. So again, I hope that makes some sense. So now let's talk about what to do from here. And I won't read through all those points and just talk the slide at you, but I think you should have a hard think about this and discuss it. You need to take people on a journey. So one of the first things I would be doing is be open about it and get on board or make a decision for whatever reason that you're not. But I couldn't believe he'd be sitting here going, we're not going to be on the AI conversation. So have that conversation in your businesses because it's coming whether you like it or not. Choose the right solution that will take you on the right journey. So I obviously I'm sitting here today. I think NetSuite is a really good horse to back for three reasons. One, they've got solutions done and ready to go. So AI everywhere throughout the solution, as I hope you've seen to some extent today, and available now. This stuff is working in the real time, in the real world. The second thing is having that Oracle NetSuite relationship and having that stack with other people. So we don't know who's going to win. So having somebody that has that global reach to be able to push out and back different horses on the generative AI conversation or the models and so on is really important. And I think the final thing with a solution is somebody that actually wants to have ideally a single solution running as much as possible. AI is going to work better in that world than a best of breed. And yes, there's going to be solutions that try and make it work in best of breed better. But we know for those people that use a solidified single solution, you can see the advantages, even in CRM, that it just naturally captures the customer journey by doing transactions and things like that. So I think that's important. Take advantage then of a solution, as I said with NetSuite, that has native AI productivity delivered, right? And that's what this is about. NetSuite's not doing this to be sexy, fancy stuff, although marketing probably has some of that. This is about genuine productivity, going back to our slide earlier and having lots of it that drives real value for you. So I think then, what you do is once you've got that foundation set up is you do a pilot case, prove it out to various people, get your data right, train and engage the people that need to be involved in this and take them on the journey. And then from there, it's just keep rinsing and repeating. But I think, one of the things is if you're on the cusp of deciding your next solution you want to have, we're not going to come and have conversations if you want to talk to us around AI and NetSuite as such. We're going to have conversations around how we can help your business be more productive, how we can add value to your business, how NetSuite in this context actually delivers a great solution that enables you to provide better customer service to your customers or whatever it may be. Those conversations will still be the same conversations we had yesterday. They will just be overlaid with the reality of AI. So I would be couching against grabbing somebody who thinks an AI expert and having them drive the conversation. Grab a business expert that wants to talk about processes, but is absolutely backing AI and sees where it sits in the conversation because it's everywhere and it's embedded. You're not going to get rid of it, and it's going to get stronger in years to come. So I want to come back, and I've said it a couple of times, but I think it's really important. This is not about job risk. So getting this really clear, this is about, probably most of you will go through this journey and end up with more people doing things because that's how it actually works. There might be some elements where you're able to streamline your processes, and that does mean you don't have 10 people, you have 7 or 8 people. But I think generally this is about having better information, quality activities, and so on. So hope that makes sense at that point, Marie.
Absolutely. So sounds like NetSuite is really a great system. It's very logical, and I can see the reason behind that. So Rob, but however, there are really concerns, like a lot of workers are worried about AI replacing their jobs, and lots of businesses are worried about not using AI effectively. Have you got anything that might alleviate some of those concerns and the people who are maybe have, concerns about having this kind of, a hesitation?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. So I think I'll coach that a little bit differently for Marie, because I've probably covered off the people concerns, and you're going to need having conversations around that, because people are watching, TV and hearing the world's going to end tomorrow with AI and all those sorts of things. That's not our conversation. Our conversation is, how do we help them do their jobs better, right? So I think a few things in here. First of all, can you ignore AI? I think is the question that you want to take away. And my answer, really as strongly as I've ever sat in one of these sessions and talked down the screen at you, is definitely not. You absolutely cannot ignore it. It's here, it's real, and as you can see from our NetSuite walkthroughs, it's everywhere. And it's going to be further everywhere in solutions coming forward. So there is no going back. The old story about the genie out of the bottle is true for a business sense here. It's going to be core to how businesses work. It is not going to replace improving processes and working on things that make your business better necessarily, but it's going to enhance the things you do around that. And that's really important to me. That said, I've done this for many years and come across businesses that have outgrown their business solutions or their business tools many years ago, before I was talking to them. And some of them just refuse to move up to the right systems or put the right processes, more importantly, in place. They're happy to be held back by their systems that really don't fit what they do today well enough, and they've created workarounds. They've got other systems. If you're in Xero, you get Unleashed for inventory or other things, and then you tell me how they don't talk well over current multi-currency and so on. So you're still going to get people that will hide behind what they perceive as the cost side of things. Your business moves up in its requirements. Your customers require more. There is an investment in this conversation, and we shouldn't ignore that. This is different now, though. If you don't buy into the AI story for your business and the productivity that it's going to unlock and the overall changing world happening around you and the one that we live in, you would definitely be best left behind. There's no doubt in my mind. You might still make money. You might hold your market share in certain areas and so on with products. You might even see growth to an extent as such, because that's still possible today, right? Because you've got great products and great services that you rightly hang your shingle on. But you will not thrive. And you will always be sitting there in a non-competitive world against other people that have bought into this. And you won't see it, because AI would just be part of how they do business. It won't be obvious to go, oh, what if I poach one of their guys and he can teach us how to sell better or whatever. It'll just be inherent in how they actually do business. So I think that's important. The other thing that's really important is the risk of your people. You will have it today. If you go and talk to people in your business, no matter how small or large you are, there will be people that are using AI tools in all different ways. There's a fantastic tool out there now that you can talk to it in a conversational way, add some elements, and it will go back and produce a podcast in the female, male voice that you want, in the version of the voice you want, across anything you want to learn. So I want to know how to change a tire on my car. There are AI solutions to do this. This is like YouTube, where I don't know about you guys, I've got a caravan and I've got no frigging idea what I'm doing. So what do? I go to YouTube and I look for a video of somebody that put the video together. I can now create those podcasts without a human being involved, as it just goes and trolls the world and see what's there. Yep, and some of those do come back with hallucination, I'm sure, and those sort of things. But this is the world we're going to be living in. And this is a seismic change that we all have to get used to. And it may be dangerous in elements, but from a business point of view, it's going to become fundamental. So, I've got the graph up there for a bit of fun, but I actually do mean it. I think this is absolutely like the change from the horse to the car when it came about. This is happening, and it's happening fast, and it's getting faster, and so on. So can you keep riding a horse? Absolutely. And you can spend 20 years riding that horse if that's what you want to do. But there will be less people in a number of years that will not be riding those horses next year. And you just have to think about what that impact is on the business. So maybe a little bit over the top and emotional, but I do genuinely believe there's a lot of stuff in AI now, and it's triggered me from being that skeptic I was a few years ago to now I'm on board, right? It is part of how business will work and does work for many companies today as such. So Marie, I think that's it for me talking to everybody. I believe there's a Q&A session that we need to probably jump into?
I totally agree with you, Rob. So we don't have to really adopt AI blindly, but no one can really afford to ignore AI entirely. So yeah, thank you, Rob, for that fantastic discussion. I'm pretty sure our audience has gathered some powerful takeaways by now. So we're now moving on to our Q&A session, and this is your great chance to ask those burning questions and dig into the details. So, but for our audience, thank you for your active participation, and of course for sending your questions earlier. So some of those questions might have been touched earlier by Rob, but we'll go deep into your questions and provide you the answers that you have been eagerly awaiting for. So I think let's get started. So for our first question, Rob, let's see. So is this generative AI features in NetSuite comes free, or there is additional charge for this? And for
Okay.
those who are currently using NetSuite.
Yeah, no, great question. Nothing's free. I don't need to lie about that fact. But the reality is this is not a module. So if you've got NetSuite today and you've moved to the most recent version, everything that I've shown you today it is there to go as such. And as you're not paying for the extra one. Will NetSuite over time see value in what they've delivered in their solution and charge more? Possibly, I don't know. But right now, the strategy that NetSuite have talked about themselves globally is very much about AI is just part of their solution. So there's not a module, there's not an extra price. It's within the solution as such. Does that make sense, Marie?
I agree. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, so that's really a great question, but we have a few more great questions coming up. So for our next question, how do you ensure AI outputs align with accounting standards or compliance requirements?
Okay, well, look, that's another great question. As I see it personally, that those standards and requirements are built into your solution. So NetSuite has clear, we talk about Sarbanes-Oxley statutory requirements in Australia, JSOX for anybody in Japan, all those things are built into the solution. AI is not undoing that as such. So I don't think it actually has a role in making sure you comply. It does have a role, though, in looking at are you comply. So the processes and the system are built the way that they need to be. What you need to do then is have those things. So we saw earlier we had a bot trolling financial information, looking for things that were out of the norm and so on. There'll be more AI around that stuff. Now here's a Rob Sheldrick special that I don't know is true, but I'm thinking as a futurist here. Will we see governments want to implant certain things in business management solutions to ensure things are happening? Well, we are certainly seeing it today, aren't we? When you're talking about e-invoicing and some of those things. So I think there's some interesting things about compliance that are open to others to deliver. And some of that happens today, by the way, for those that work in pharmaceuticals. I can never remember the certificate numbers, but there's things in systems that focus on that area. So again, just to wrap up the answer there, your processes and functionality will deliver the compliance side. The checks and balances may well, as you've seen, be driven with AI.
All right, so there we go. And that is another great point, Rob. So definitely something to keep in mind moving forward. And as I was saying, we do have a lot of great questions here from our audience. So next question is, what are the third-party tools to consider to extend the NetSuite's AI capabilities?
Okay, so that's a difficult one to answer fully in the session today, but I'll have a crack at it. And whoever asks that question, they're happy to have a separate conversation. So there's some things that are definitely in that stack that I talked about from the Oracle NetSuite side. So those third-party tools that make sense are certainly being managed and delivered through NetSuite itself, and that's pretty important. So the right generative AI, and again, there's a lot of choices out there. So they're looking at how they can extend the solution to work with those so-called third-party solutions. Having said that, AI in the NetSuite world also has the ability to provide the hooks. So if you've got a solution, not necessarily AI, that's not in the standard ecosystem and so on, there is ways to customize and work with those. So NetSuite is providing an opening to leverage its AI elements out to a customized world. Now, I'm not a big lover of customization. I think that is not necessarily the way to go, but when it makes sense, obviously you want to do that. I don't think you should be thinking about this conversation fully as in, I like this third-party AI thing, how do I bring it into play? But there is opportunities to make that happen. But again, Marie, the person that asked that, if they want to have a bit of a deeper conversation. And remember, I'm an enthusiast. I'd like to think I've got across the conversation, but I'm certainly not a technical boffin as such, but I'd absolutely love to have that conversation.
Thanks, Rob. So definitely we can have another separate session for this to explain further and to really clarify the topic. So yeah, for our next question, Rob, we have here, can we retrain or refine the AI's behavior if it gives us irrelevant suggestions?
Yeah. So I think this is really important. You saw a lot of different components to AI at the start. I listed off 8. You could argue out there's 10 or whatever. So a lot of it does rely on training. So one of the things NetSuite you saw was in our walkthrough today was there is a thumbs up and a thumbs down. I am the worst at doing that. When people ask me my opinion, I am hopeless at doing that. You need to get your people on board. That's part of training, right? The more they can interact and tell AI at different parts that it's doing the job you want or it's not doing the job, it'll learn, right? So learning is part of the components of AI. Being able to have large data sets, see that there's something in that trend, and then realize, okay, that didn't work out right. So maybe we're talking about forecasting. There's a brand new product. We've applied some rigor to it as a human being would, right? And not got it right. We can tell it not just through thumbs up, thumbs down, but in different ways and help retrain it. So the best answer to do that, the training side of things, though, is have large data sets and information that's relevant in your world. So the other thing that's important is not everything needs to be trained. So don't think of it, so there's out of the box stuff that you saw today. So you might put in a bit of information for composing an email, better one than we saw today, I think. And you might then want to change the result. But in reality, what you're doing is 80% is fine. You're just putting it there. And honestly, I'm the sort of person that start from scratch, I'm not as good. Give me something that somebody else has done and I can pick it to pieces and make it better and whatever, at least in my mind, as such. That's what AI is delivering, right? The foundation that's largely right and the ability to prove it. Will AI get to the fact that you don't improve anything? That sort of stuff, probably not, because your brain's going to say, I want to change something, but it'll certainly go from maybe 80% to 90% to 95% as it learns more through. So that's really important, the learning part. Hope that answered that okay, Maria?
Another excellent insight there you got, Rob. So pretty sure that our audience will take note of this moving forward. So I think we have a few more questions, but for those questions that we might miss during this discussion, please don't worry. We'll come back to you, and we can arrange a session as mentioned earlier. We could always have another session with Rob in a separate discussion. All right. So another question here that says, how does NetSuite handle sensitive financial data in AI processes?
Okay. That's another good question. So you've allowed me in these questions, I think, to point out that the core NetSuite behavior doesn't actually change. You improve it, you make it more productive, and so on. So when we're talking about sensitive information, one of the things that comes to bear there is securitization through the system. So you can still set up the system and say, I want this AP clerk not to be able to see this company information because I've got 3 different entities or whatever else, or this financial person doing journals doesn't get to see this part of the chart of accounts or whatever it may be. So that will not be undone by this. What it might be done is a bit of a bot that checks to see that people aren't going where they shouldn't, or there's not being changes to security. So think empowering the audit conversation as such. The other thing that's important that obviously we all rely on is NetSuite and Oracle in general are across the conversation of having information and data go offshore. So that's why they've invested all their money in the onshore conversation. So I did see a presentation last year that just astounded me, where somebody was showing AI using a solution that instead of doing OCR locally, it took a PDF, sent it off to another country, had that AI solution work out that yes, it is a supplier invoice, and yes, we should do an OCR thing on it, send it back as a result. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have the travel to another country necessarily, but there was no steps around how you protect that and so on. So what I'm really interested in is how Oracle and NetSuite are leveraging, their data centers are in Australia. You're not put somewhere else. Working with third parties, largely in Australia, there might be some conversations around that, but the security side doesn't change. Does that make sense again, Marie?
Absolutely, Rob. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much about our questions from our audience. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, if we weren't able to really, if we're able to really answer your questions, don't worry, we'll be happy to follow up with you guys. And should there be a need to further clarification, or we can always set a meeting with Rob to discuss outstanding queries. So, lastly, before I wrap up this session, Rob, any last message or note for our audience? Please go ahead.
Yeah, look, well, thanks for the opportunity, and I hope it's come across that my drivers are not AI from a technical point of view and just for the fun of AI. They're about productivity and very much about my innate want to actually improve processes and help businesses go forward. AI is just going to be fundamental to that moving forward. It will not be the only way, though, that we work with processes and improve them. So that's really important to take away as well. This is not everything's AI, but it certainly is. AI is going to make a compounding difference. The last thing I'd like to say is in the spirit of training the AI and learning from things, etc. I'm the same. So please provide some feedback around what you think I covered today, how I covered it. I'd like to know whether you think I'm actually sharing things in the right way so I can keep going forward in the way I talk to, not just my customers, but people that are interested in what I'm talking about.
Thanks, Rob. So it makes me feel I'm gonna, love AI more. So yeah, so thank you also to our audience for your time, for being with us today. So we hope that you found our session very insightful and wishing you a great day ahead. So thank you again, and until next time. Bye for now.